The winter of 1887 didn't kill Elena Voss, but it tried like hell. She stood at the iron gates of Blackstone Ridge Ranch on a February morning so cold the air felt like broken glass in her lungs. Snow clung to her torn boots, boots that had walked 300 miles through Montana territory, with nothing but grief keeping her upright. Her dress hung off her frame like a burial shroud. She hadn't eaten in 4 days. Behind those gates sat warmth, food, survival. She'd heard about Caleb Holt in every town between here and the Dakota border, the cattle baron, the man who owned half the valley and didn't give a damn what anyone thought about it. Rich as sin and twice as mean, they said. His ranch stretched across 10,000 acres of prime grazing land, and he protected every inch of it like a king defending his kingdom. Elena didn't care about his reputation. She cared about not dying in a snowbank before sunset. Her fingers, blue and trembling, wrapped around the cold iron bars. She pulled herself close enough to see the main house in the distance. 3 stories of dark timber and stone, smoke rising from multiple chimneys, corrals full of horses that probably ate better than she had in months. The sight of it made something crack inside her chest. "You lost, lady?" Elena turned too fast and nearly fell. A ranch hand stood 10 feet away, leading a horse toward the stables. He looked her up and down with the kind of expression people reserved for stray dogs. "I need to speak with Mr. Holt." Her voice came out rough, broken. The hand spat tobacco juice into the snow. "He ain't hiring." "I'll work for food." The words tasted like shame. "Just food, that's all. Ranch is full up, try the town." "The town won't hire me." "Then I guess you got a problem." He started walking away. Elena's hands tightened on the gate until her knuckles went white. She'd walked too far. Lost too much. This couldn't be the end, standing outside another set of locked gates while someone walked away like she didn't exist. "I can teach." The desperation in her voice made her hate herself. "Your boss has daughters. I heard it in town. Girls need education. Girls got a governess. Then they need someone who can sew, cook, clean. Anything, lady." The hand stopped and turned back, his patience clearly gone. "You look half dead already. Boss don't need that kind of trouble sleeping in his barn. Move along before I get someone who'll make you move." Elena opened her mouth to argue, but a different voice cut through the cold air first. "Let her through." The voice came from a man on horseback riding down from the main house, a big sorrel gelding that moved like it knew it was worth more than most men made in a year. The rider sat straight-backed in the saddle, dressed in a heavy coat and wide-brimmed hat that shadowed most of his face. Caleb Holt. Even through the haze of her exhaustion, Elena recognized power when she saw it. He didn't move like other men. He moved like someone who'd never had to ask for anything twice. The ranch hand immediately stepped back. "Mr. Holt, I was just—" "Open the gate, Davis." Davis hesitated for half a second, then pulled the heavy gate open with a rusty screech that sounded like a warning. Caleb rode through and stopped his horse directly in front of Elena. Up close, she could see his face, weathered and hard, probably mid-40s, with the kind of eyes that had seen too much and stopped caring about most of it. He looked down at her the way a man might examine livestock at auction. "You got a name?" "Elena Voss." "Where you from?" "North Dakota, originally." "Long way to walk." His tone didn't have any sympathy in it, just observation. "What happened to your people?" The question hit harder than the cold. Elena's jaw tightened. "Dead." "Husband?" "Dead." "Children?" Her throat closed up. It took her 3 seconds to force the word out. "Dead." Caleb studied her face like he was trying to decide if she was lying. Elena stared back and refused to look away. She had nothing left to hide behind. No pride, no dignity, just the raw truth that she'd lost everything and didn't have the strength to pretend otherwise. "You know anything about raising children?" Caleb asked. "I know children need food and patience. Most adults forget the second part." Something almost like amusement flickered across his expression. Almost. "My daughters have gone through 4 governesses in 2 years. Good women, educated women, lasted 3 weeks each before they ran back to town crying. Maybe they weren't tough enough. Maybe." He shifted in the saddle, leather creaking. "Or maybe my girls are meaner than rattlesnakes and twice as unpredictable. Children aren't mean without reason. You a philosopher now? I'm a mother who buried her son." The words came out harder than Elena intended. I know what grief looks like on a child's face. The air between them went still. Caleb's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or memory. He sat there for a long moment, snow starting to fall around them in lazy spirals. Finally, he spoke. I'll give you 1 week, room in the servant quarters, 3 meals a day, no pay. If my daughters don't want you dead by Sunday, we'll talk wages. If they do, he paused. You leave quietly and don't come back demanding charity. Elena's legs nearly buckled with relief, but she kept herself upright through sheer will. I won't need charity. Everyone needs something, Mrs. Voss. Caleb turned his horse back toward the house. Davis will show you where to sleep. Get yourself cleaned up before you meet the girls. They're already suspicious of anyone who walks through that gate. When do I meet them? Caleb glanced back over his shoulder. Dinner, 6 o'clock. Don't be late. He rode off before Elena could respond, leaving her standing in the snow with Davis, who looked like he'd just watched his boss make a terrible mistake. Come on, then. Davis's voice had resignation in it now, instead of hostility. Let's get you settled before you freeze solid. The servant quarters sat behind the main house, a long, low building that housed the ranch hands, kitchen staff, and anyone else who kept Blackstone Ridge running. Elena's room turned out to be barely bigger than a closet, with a narrow bed, a wash basin, and a single window that looked out over the corrals. It was the most beautiful room she'd seen in 6 months. The housekeeper, a stern-faced woman named Mrs. Talbot, showed up within the hour carrying a bundle of clothes and a look of pure skepticism. These belonged to the last governess. Mrs. Talbot dropped the bundle on the bed. She left in such a hurry she forgot half her things. They'll be too big on you, but better than those rags you're wearing. Elena touched the fabric. Simple cotton dresses, clean and whole. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Mrs. Talbot crossed her arms. You'll be gone within a week, just like the others. Those girls... She shook her head. They're not right. Haven't been since their mother died. How long ago was that? 3 years. Mrs. Holt took fever one winter and never recovered. Mr. Holt hasn't been the same since. Mrs. Talbot's expression softened slightly. He loved her something fierce. When she died, it was like watching a man turn to stone. Now he lives for those girls and nothing else. What about the girls? How do they manage? Manage? Mrs. Talbot let out a bitter laugh. Little June has nightmares every night, wakes up screaming for her mother. And Mabel... She paused. Mabel's the dangerous one. 9 years old and mean as a kicked dog. She's the one who ran off the last 4 governesses. How? Different ways. Put a dead rat in one woman's bed, locked another in the cellar overnight. Told a third one she hoped she'd die like Mama did. Mrs. Talbot's voice dropped. That one left before breakfast the next morning. Elena absorbed this information without flinching. They're testing people. Testing? Children who've lost someone don't trust strangers. They push people away before they can be abandoned again. Elena began sorting through the clothes. It's not meanness, it's survival. Mrs. Talbot stared at her like she'd started speaking a foreign language. You really believe that? I know it. Elena found a simple gray dress that looked like it might fit, because I've done the same thing myself. Before Mrs. Talbot could respond, a bell clanged from somewhere near the main house, harsh and loud, cutting through the afternoon quiet. That's the dinner bell. Mrs. Talbot moved toward the door. You've got 30 minutes to make yourself presentable. And Mrs. Voss? She paused in the doorway. Whatever you think you know about grieving children, Mabel and June are different. Don't underestimate them. Then she was gone, leaving Elena alone with borrowed clothes and the growing certainty that she'd just walked into something far more complicated than she'd bargained for. The dining room at Blackstone Ridge looked like something out of a wealthy Eastern home. Long table made of dark wood, chandelier hanging overhead with real glass crystals, walls lined with paintings of mountain landscapes. Elena stood in the doorway feeling completely out of place in her borrowed dress, her still damp hair pulled back in a simple bun. Caleb sat at the head of the table, changed out of his ranch clothes into a clean shirt and vest. He looked up when Elena entered, his expression unreadable. Mrs. Voss, sit. Elena moved to the chair he indicated, halfway down the table, across from 2 empty seats. She sat carefully, back straight, hands folded in her lap. the kind of posture her own mother had drilled into her years ago, back when she'd been a different person.